Hey, it's Sandra. Welcome to another episode of Asexualise, My Sexual Life. This is a place to be for education about asexuality, all things asexual. I share my asexual life journey in order to help you in yours. So subscribe and hit the bell icon right now. So if you've been following my personal story on this channel, you'll know that I found someone who I believed was my soulmate, who turned out not to be the right guy for me. And we split up officially on Monday. It's now Saturday when I'm recording this, because he didn't actually end it, as though his behavior signaled that he was ending it, but he didn't actually end it. So I ended it on the Monday. And even though I think it's good that we're no longer together, because it's actually in my best interest that we're no longer together, and probably his also, then I still obviously have feelings for this guy. Like, if you truly love someone and you're not faking it and you're not just saying it to be in a relationship, you don't just get rid of those feelings just because the person's left your life and gone away from you, right? You still have to process the feelings. And the way we process these feelings is understanding that relationship loss, however long you're with that person, is a loss at the end of the day. So I wasn't with this person that long in terms of actual physical time, but it felt like I've been with them for a very long time. It was a very intense relationship. We were video calling every day, messaging every day. And so it felt like it was a lot longer than it actually was. And I felt like I'd known them before. They were very familiar to me. So it kind of felt like we'd been together a very long time, like months, rather than just a bit less than a month, you know? So it's kind of hard. Well, I say just a bit less than a month. We knew each other just a bit less than a month, but it was 10 days before we got into a relationship. Yes, I know what you're thinking. Are you effing crazy? You should never get into a relationship that quickly. Yes, I hold my hands up that it's my fault that I got into a relationship quickly. I did trust the guy. I did base the relationship on what I saw initially of him, which was a person that I really admired, as a respectful, kind, caring, loving human being, right? But his behavior and attitude changed, and yeah, he wasn't suitable for me anymore. But you know, you have to go with what you want at the time and understand the consequences. Now I'm paying those consequences because I have to grieve now, right? But you have to be true to who you are, and you can't beat yourself up for your choices in life. I don't regret ever being in a relationship with him, right? Not everything was bad. Some of it was really good, but that ending wasn't great. The way he treated me at the end wasn't good. And there was some characteristics of his that wasn't suitable for me. And we have different values, morals, beliefs, ethics, all that type of thing. So I think it's a good thing that we're no longer together logically. But that doesn't mean to say that you can't still feel pain, right? If you love a person and you're in a relationship with them and then you split up, it's going to hurt. If you truly love them, it'll hurt like hell. If you didn't really truly love them, you might miss them a bit, but you ain't going to be so like thinking, it's not going to have such a big effect on you or your body. But if you truly love them and you're not denying it and you're facing up to reality of it, it's going to hurt you, right? Because you are grieving for something that's no longer there, that was there, present in your life every single day. And that does hurt. So for me personally, I've had a difficult mixed week, right? And it's been tough. Sometimes it's going well, and some things are absolutely incredible, and then other times I'm feeling like upset again and in pain, emotional pain again. So it's been a very weird sort of week for me, to actually let that person go completely from my life. He acted like he didn't really care in the end anyway, like with his actions rather than his words. And well, the words weren't even there by the end of it, I would say, but you know what I mean? And so, it's been very difficult. And so for me, like with the grief scenario, it's kind of like, first of all, you're like in shock and disbelief that that person could behave in such a mean way to you, that they could just like, delete you off the main point of communication, like just like that, and deny it. It's just very bizarre behavior. And, you know, that they knew what they were going to do before they even left being with me, which is a shame because they gave me a false sense of security and hope that the relationship would be okay when we're having difficulties. And all the time they knew that they were kind of like going to jeopardize the relationship in some way. So probably I would say that I didn't want to be with them anyway. And, it's been hard, right? But, the grief process for me so far has been like, kind of like in shock and disbelief, like anger. How could you treat me that way? Then it's like, oh, did I do anything wrong? Is any of this my fault? And then it's like rationalizing things out, like, okay, is this good that he lies? No, it's a bad trait that someone lies, right? Is it good he thinks that likes and thinks fighting someone else if he's right? You know, if he has a mentality, if it's good to fight other guys, if he's right and he feels that, he can't, words are not enough, that's bad because if he can hit another human being, he could potentially hurt me, right? These character traits are not good. And it's weird because he looks so sweet and innocent and such a nice person. And when I first met him, he was a beautiful person. He was very good for me in terms of my health and well-being, anxiety. He was nice and calm. And he saw me like my legs shaking and he's like, oh, don't worry. As time goes by, you're with me, or heal the scars of the past. And, you won't be doing that anymore. And he's such a loving, kind, caring guy. But he was not like that at the end, right? It was a case of like I was really stressed and anxiety induced. I didn't know what was happening with the relationship a lot of the time. And it was kind of me doing the work to try and like sort things out, I felt like, whereas he would just shut down and not say much. So it was kind of really hard. I'm not saying everything was his fault. I'm not saying that at all. But, I'm just saying how I feel and how difficult it is with the grieving process. He might have moved on by now, I don't know, it's not my business really, is it? But what I'm saying is for me personally, I'm still hurting because I still love the guy even though he's not with me anymore, and it gets upsetting for me. I don't want to love him still, there's no point in loving him still because he's out of my life, but my feelings for him are still there, they don't just go away. And so it's hardcore, and they say that, like, love is like an addiction, like equivalent to cocaine or heroin, where you have to, like, unaddict yourself. You have to go through a process which is like going through withdrawal symptoms, and that can be really difficult, mentally and physically and emotionally on you. So you've got to understand that you are trying to conquer something that is like a love chemical addiction, and you've got to get a way of stopping that addiction and sobering up again, right? And, like, so, I go to I'm more at the moment, I'm more at the rational stage than I was earlier, thinking, yeah, this character traits I don't personally like, I don't think they're good. And it is red flags, and I kind of look for evidence. So I was looking up an article. It's stupid because in my mind, I know that if, I've done a pattern changing course before with a company called Stop Abuse for Everyone. And in that specific course, they said, look, if the person you're with can fight other people, like fight other guys, it means they could potentially hurt you. This is a huge red flag for potential future abuse that you do not want to be part of. So I know that, but I'm still, because I love the person, I'm still kind of looking for more evidence to prove that I'm right in thinking that is a red flag and that he's not good for me in that way. And you're better off without him. Because what I mean, if you're at all self-blaming and then you're trying to look for evidence, you're trying to counteract the feelings of self-blame with, no, you did the right thing, you knew that, you told him that you didn't like that, and it's good you told him, and it's good that he could see on your face that you didn't like it at all and it's a bad thing, and like it's born from ego, that is, it's not to protect me. I said if it's self-defense because someone's going to actually attack me, that's different. But if you're just going up because it's a difference, you don't agree with some guy or something, it's not good. I don't condone physical violence at all, like that. It's not good. And so, I'm kind of like weighing, like, like what happened, and you kind of go back to scenarios thinking what actually happened in that scenario. Like, okay, he was like this really nice, kind, caring, loving guy. Then by the end of it, he was like disinterested, disengaged, shut down, not really bothered. You know what I mean? It's like two different people. Like Saturday was a kind caring guy, and then even last week Ken, and then Sunday the opposite. it's like what goes on here. And my best friend reminded me and said to me, like, a person who is inconsistent like that is going to make you anxious. They're not going to be helpful or good for you. You know, especially if I've got an anxiety condition, but even without an anxiety condition, it's not going to be good if a person isn't consistent. But with an anxiety condition as well, it's one of the worst things they can do, be inconsistent. And so this isn't good, for my well-being. And, I have achieved great things since this guy isn't in my life anymore. So when you're grieving and you're trying to deal with heartache and heartbreak, you have to have moments where you feel your emotions and you lean into them and you actually cry to get them out of your system. Because if you don't, they can build up as toxicity in your body, in your being, and cause more stress and more pain. And they can come out later on in other future relationships, future situations, and this is not healthy. So in order to make yourself healthier for potential future, I don't want a relationship at the moment. I'm happy being single and I don't want to get involved with anyone. I'm just saying. But not because I haven't got guys in my inbox, because I've always got guys interested in me in my inbox saying I'm gorgeous and whatever and they're interested in me. But I'm not going there, because it's like, thanks for saying I look gorgeous. That's great, but I'm not interested, doing anything else. Because I'm healing, and you have to understand the grieving process and how it works. And you do have you do have anger, like betrayal feelings, denial. Then you have like the self-blame. Then you have the like logic it out. So you have all these stages you've got to go through, and the worst, the first week is meant to be the absolute worst because you just like stopped seeing this person. For me, it was hard today because I was at the cathedral green and I saw couples together, and usually I'm fine with couples being together. I actually think in my mind, I'm so glad that you're cherishing and adoring each other. I mean, I don't know what they're like behind closed doors, obviously, but when I see them together and they're loving each other and they're cuddling, they've got arms around each other, it makes me feel warm and fuzzy for them. It makes me feel, and even now though, if as I'm saying that, there was a couple sat on the cathedral wall and the guy had his arms around her and he just looked so in love with her and so coupled up with her and so lovey-dovey with her. Like, at the time I didn't feel great because I'm like, well, where's my other half? And also I saw other couples like, where's my other half? Oh, I don't have another half anymore. I mean, I'm a whole person as I am. I don't need someone else to complete me. But when you see other couples out and you've been a couple, it's kind of like you miss that person in that way because you're used to being with them. You're used to doing coupley things. But as I sit here and think about that couple, I'm thinking it's good, that guy seems to appreciate his girl. He's super into her. And I hope it stays that way. So many guys take women for granted after a while. I'm sure it's the opposite as well. Sometimes women take guys for granted, but so many guys I see, they're really excited to get into a relationship with a woman. The woman's paying them loads of attention, messaging them back, being, loving and caring, prioritizing the guy, like he prioritizes her, and then all of a sudden he like starts taking her for granted, and he's like, oh, I'm not really going to bother anymore because I've kind of got to where I want her. She's doing all this stuff for me, so I don't even have to bother anymore. But they forget that that woman's doing stuff out of choice for that guy. She's loving on that guy because she loves him. She's messaging that guy and wanting to hear from him back because she loves him. She's wanting to see the guy because she's super into him. But if guys look back at their dating, a lot of guys told me when I was dating that they don't get many responses from women. So when they get a response from a woman, some of them say they just have to put up with what they get, which is really bad attitude, not good for dating. But others, like, they don't get many responses. So when a woman does respond to them, it kind of makes them feel really special and good. But the problem is when they get into a relationship a lot of the time, they then get used to that and take it for granted. And it becomes like an annoyance to them. Like, oh, why are you messaging me while I'm at work? Or why are you, it can be. I'm not saying every guy is like this, but it can be more of they can take it for granted. Like, think, oh, she's messaging me, I don't need to bother. I'll get, you know what I mean? They're not as persistent and consistent in their communication, for example, because they kind of think they've got the woman where they want her. They don't realize that you've got to grow as a team together as well as individuals. You have to keep the communication alive and going. You have to make the person still feel loved, cherished, special, and adored all the time in a relationship as much as possible, because that's what you're meant to be doing. We're showing respect for the person. and showing interest and enthusiasm and intrigue and excitement still, even if you've been together for quite a long time, right? So this doesn't happen very often. They kind of like go from dating from nothing to being with the person, and they just get used to it. Take the person for granted. It's really not good, in my opinion. But anyway, like going back to getting over heartache and heartbreak, you have to experience some of the negative emotions. You have to grieve. You have to, feel into that upset, feel into that pain. But it is important to take all the information you got about that person, and like, yes, you can admit there's some good times. You had some great times together. That, you can do that, and you can admit the truth if you did have good times together, that you had a great time together, this, and this. But if all you do is focus on the good stuff that you had together, you're not going to give yourself a reason as to why you split up. You're going to like think, why aren't we still together if it was so good? Like some people who are like psychologists and psychiatrists, they think it's good to think about the good times. It's, think about them, let them go with love, and just like open your heart and just release them, right? That could work for some people, but for other people, if all you do is focus on the good times you have together, and you see their smiley face and you think about how loving they were, it blinds you to the reality of the situation, of how bad you felt in the end of that relationship, how miserable they were making you, how stressed they were making you, how anxiety-induced they were making you, how uncomfortable they were making you, how unloved they were making you feel, how uncherished, unadored, how disinterested they made you feel, and so you have to focus on this negative stuff as well, not because you want to ruminate on all the negative stuff, but because you want to see the reality of the situation. Like, I knew that if something didn't change and the problems that I had in that relationship weren't resolved, then I couldn't sustain being in a relationship with that person. When I was so anxiety induced, I was getting like a stress rash on my neck. I couldn't work. I was feeling really debilitated with my anxiety because the person's changed their attitude and behavior. Instead of being loving, kind, caring, making me a priority, focus on me, it was the opposite. It was like, more like more like taking me for granted, more like, like not really into me. But then sometimes he was really into me. So it's like, it's like two contrasting things, being into me and not into me. So when you've got someone who's inconsistent like that, super into you and they're not into you, of course it's going to make you feel like your life is a seesaw, and it's going to be destabilizing and make you feel insecure and unhappy. So you have to, as well as thinking, yes, you had some good times, not everything was bad, you have to focus on stuff that wasn't good in the relationship, especially if that's why it ended, because you have to remind yourself why it's important that you're not with that person anymore. Why you're better off without them. Because if you think there were so many good times and all you do is focus on the good times that you had with them, then your mind will automatically divert back to, oh, why aren't I with them? Why aren't they with me now? We should be in a relationship again because there was no problem. But if you actually look at the reality of the situation in the end, not what they were like at the beginning, but what they were really like at the end when they showed the true them, if they weren't suitable for you and they were making you anxious, nervous, or upset, and the majority of the time, then it was no good, right? So you have to look at these things as they occur, but you have to give yourself a proper view of the situation. Not one that, you don't have to deny that you had any good times with them. I had a great time with this person. I got on really well with them quite a lot of the time in person, but long distance for me, I just don't think is good either. I decided afterwards I don't really think I can do long distance relationship, not even in the UK. But I don't know if that's because it was with that person, because in the beginning it was fine with them. In the beginning, because they were the loving, kind, caring person, and they were very caring about my health and well-being, it was great. And I didn't really have all the anxiety. But by the end of it, I was really highly anxiety induced because I felt really disconnected from them. They would shut down. I felt like they weren't really into me, like I couldn't have that connection with them again. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? I was kind of like they didn't really care as much. So, and I wasn't that important to them anymore. So, but when like we were together last weekend, the Saturday was amazing. And it was like, oh, he was just back to the way he was, a kind, caring, loving guy. And then the Sunday opposite. So you can't really be stable with someone who's not stable with you, who's not consistent and persistent and showing the same behavior all the time. If they're up and down with their behavior, it's like being with two different people. It's like, which one are you? Which one are you? Are you this kind, caring, loving person? Or are you this person who upsets me and says and does things that aren't good? Or doesn't do things that's not good? Do you know what I mean? because there were a number of instances when things were said and that I was upset and stuff, but I forgave him for a lot of that, you know. But even so, it's, you know, you have to remember the reality of the situation. You know, you have to remember in the end that person didn't choose you, whether it ended well or badly or whatever it ended. If that person decided not to be with you for whatever reason, or you decide not to be with them, you know, because even if the situation bad, you have to understand that that person, if they show behavior which meant they didn't want to be with you anymore, they chose not to be with you, so they can't be your person. So sometimes we think, oh, we've just lost the love of our life, but they weren't the love of our life because they didn't truly love us. They didn't choose to stay with us. So we have to think in our mind, this person was not the right person for me, because a lot of people fall into the trap, and I used to do this, of, oh, this person was the one for me, but this person wasn't the one for me in the end. Because if they were one for me, they would be here by my side, being kind, caring, and loving like they were originally, super into me, and we get on really well like we did originally, you know. And so you have to ask yourself, when you break up, you do have to ask yourself questions. You have to reflect on the situation, but it's hard because you don't want to be so reflecting on the situation that it just makes your head spin, because you'll never really truly know everything, because they've got their perspective and you've got yours. You're not in their brain, they're not in yours, so you can never fully know and understand the situation. And sometimes if you try to understand the past with them, you're actually not being present and getting on with your life to move forward into the future, which you need to do, because you're no longer with that person. You know, of course it goes through your head, like, is that person thinking about you as well? Of course it goes through your head, like, is that person missing you? But whether you go through their head and they're missing you or not is pretty irrelevant, in the sense that they're not actually with you anymore. They've left your life. If they've acted like they don't care and they've completely broke your trust, if they broke your trust, you can never get back with them anyway. So even if they did turn up back in your life randomly sometime in the future, if they've really broke your trust, you can't get that back usually. Therefore, you can never be back with them anyway. Even if they turn up 3 years later saying, oh shit, excuse me, I made a huge mistake. I decided to go for my career because I was scared about a relationship, and I went and pursued my career, and actually I was miserable because, you know, I didn't get the career I wanted or whatever, and I lost the girl, you know what I mean? And I'm lonely, and all my friends are married and paired off, and now I'm like on my own. Do you know what I mean? Which can happen. You know, not sometimes people put career before relationship, sometimes people put relationship before career, some people pursue both at the same time. But you know, like, some people, they don't regret moving on. They have a great time, that they knew that person wasn't right for them. They move on to someone else. That person that I split from, he'll probably be in Canada next year, married to some other girl, right? But it was really weird. And when you look back at it, it is really weird, because he went from like talking about living together, marriage, like planning the whole like room out, like what it would look like with furniture and stuff, to like being the opposite. You know what I mean? So it's kind of really weird, really, really strange when you look back at the contrast between the beginning of the relationship and the end of the relationship. It's totally the opposite, right? And so, you know, you have to ask yourself, like, did you do the right things in the relationship? Like, is there anything you can improve upon? Because we can always improve ourselves. And when we do come out of a relationship, it is good to self-reflect, but there's a difference between self-reflect and self-blame. But you can end up thinking, is it my fault, and blaming yourself. But if you look logically, if that person's behavior wasn't good before you even like hit the ground running in some ways. So, for example, if that person told something to you that wasn't true and it was a lie, and you've only just got with them in a relationship, but you forgave them for that, that can't be your fault, because they were already like that, because you didn't really know them. And it is obviously a huge red flag. But when we love someone, we have strong feelings or whatever. Hello, nice to see you. When we have strong feelings for someone, we often ignore the red flags. And if a person asks them to forgive them, then we can be like, oh yeah, I want to forgive this person because it's good to forgive, because we're always kind of shamed for not forgiving people, and we're like praised in society for forgiving people. Like, oh, it's like forgiveness is a be all and end all. It's like it's a righteous thing to do, but it actually isn't good for you sometimes. If a person's done something that's not good, you don't have to forgive them. You can decide not to be with them and just move on with your life. Right? Because being righteous and doing the right thing by society is not always actually the right thing for you, because it's not always helpful. Forgiving someone is like accepting that they've done that, but sometimes they might change and sometimes they don't. Love your videos, so enlightening. Oh, thank you. Lots of love to you. It's nice for you to be here with me. I appreciate it. I'm glad you enjoy my videos. So always think and reflect on what actually went on. Yes, there are ways that we can obviously improve ourselves in relationships. Like anything you think that there might have been an issue with yourself, you need to like address that. Like, thinking, is it really an issue with myself, or is it their behavior and the way they were treating me? Ended up me responding like that. And if so, could I have responded any better? Could I have been different in my communication with them? Was there anything I could have done differently? So I think you have to use it as a way to reflect on yourself and self-improve. But your self-improvement might just simply be, I knew there was red flags in the beginning and I still ended up in a relationship with that person. Why is that? That might be actually the learning experience. Not that you did anything wrong and that it was your fault, but obviously there is two people in a relationship. So I'm not saying none of it's my fault or none of it's like, my, anything to do with me. But I'm saying you have to look at the bigger picture and see if there's any way that you can change your behaviors in the future with a different person, potentially, for example. But also you have to understand, was the way that they were with you not good? And therefore you have to ask yourself, like, why did I allow that behavior? Why did I continue in that relationship for even that long when a person was disrespecting me or not treating me well, or there was red flags there? Like, we do ignore red flags a lot of the time because if we love a person, we kind of feel like obliged to like try and make it work with them, right? We love them, so we want to be kind and caring. And there's a big thing in society, like, being forgiving is kindness. Being like, just allowing someone to do something and then forgiving them and moving on quickly, that's the right thing to do. But it's not always the right thing to do. Sometimes it's right to say, look, this is not acceptable behavior and I need to move on. So it's hard. There was one thing that I couldn't deal with, and that's a timekeeping issue of him. And it became a big problem because he thought I should just be fine with him turning up too late. And I can't accept that. You accept that. It's like 3 times already. I hadn't been with him that long, and 3 times. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like, if it's 3 times in a short space of time, what's it going to be like in a month's time, 6 months' time, a year's time? Right? And him thinking he can turn up late, to me, is disrespectful. It's disrespectful of my time, especially when I was usually working in the evenings, and any lateness eats into my work time, and which, I'm working to help asexuals, so it's not good. And that was something that he definitely thought that I should just drop and be fine with, and I wasn't. And it's my standard, and it's the way I live my life. I like to be organized. I like punctuality. I like timekeeping. I like reliability. These are qualities that I admire in someone. I admire them in myself. I don't want to start getting slack thinking it's okay for someone to turn up like however many minutes late and not tell me, and be okay about the chaos of not knowing when they're going to show up. I don't like that. I don't like a chaotic life like that. I like a very structured life where I know what I'm doing, when I'm doing it, where I'm doing it, how I'm doing it, as much as possible, because that's how I work and that's what's best for my anxiety condition. And the fact that I've got anxiety, he was good about that in the beginning, but then by the end of it, it kind of like felt like he didn't like that I've got anxiety, because he's like, oh, I don't take anxiety. It's like, well, I've got an anxiety condition. It's like, you should see a doctor. I'm like, I do. I have a diagnosis of anxiety disorder since 2010. You know what I mean? But if someone can't accept the fact I have an anxiety condition, I've had it before 2010, but if they can't accept that about me, that's not a good thing. But before, they were saying, originally begin a relationship, oh, don't worry, like, I see you're anxious and that will go away with time, with being with me, everything will be fine. But then he wasn't saying that in the end. You know what I mean? So, well, he was trying to say, oh, all your stress will disappear when you see me, but then I was getting anxious when away from him, because it was just disconnect from him, and he wasn't like into me like he used to be, and you know what I mean? So it wasn't good. And it, by the end of the relationship, I was so stressed. Thank you for the loving hearts. I was very stressed. I was getting stress rash. I was really like anxiety induced all the time. And I knew that I couldn't sustain that relationship. I even told him that I'm stressed out. This is the reasons why. And this is not sustainable for me. I cannot be in a situation where I'm not doing my work and stuff, and I'm upset, and I had to tell him. But, I can't it was up to him whether he wanted to change that or not. And in the end, I think he kind of just gave up and thought, oh, I can't be bothered. So, it is what it is. But when you're going through grieving, you have to understand there'll be times when you'll feel not so bad and you might feel good, and there'll be times when you feel really upset because you're kind of missing the person being in your life, even if they weren't the right person for you. You will get over it. The good thing is, if you've got over heartache and heartbreak before, just remember that in your mind, because then you've got evidence of when you've done it before and you can do it again. So even though I'm grieving at the moment and it's been a hard week for me, and sometimes I'm really upset and crying, and sometimes I feel like bursting into tears in public, and other times I'm just thinking, yeah, I'm a best selling author now, like, so if I look back, like, and someone asked me, like, are you successful without the sky? The answer is yes. I'm effing successful, baby, like hugely successful. Since we split up, I officially ended it on Monday, because he couldn't be asked to officially end it. So I officially ended it on Monday, with a text, because he didn't really want to talk to me anyway. Like on Monday night, Sunday night, he was like phoning me twice, and then he's like, oh, I need to go to sleep now. I need to do laundry. I need to do cooking. You're not thinking of me. So I needed to get off the phone. So I was the one who got off the phone, but he couldn't actually end the relationship. So strong, yeah. So I ended it in a text, because that's the only way I thought was best, because because he didn't want to obviously end it face to face. He made it basically impossible for me to be with him anyway. Basically shoved me out of the relationship anyway by deleting his whole Facebook account, so we couldn't connect on Facebook anymore, and denying he did anything to his Facebook. Like, he said, I didn't block you. Well, technically he didn't block me in the sense that he deleted his account, as far as I know, but this is the same as blocking, really, because it automatically like stops you talking to someone. So it depends what you define as blocking, but if you define the blocking as technical blocking, do you know what I mean? It's just crazy. It's immature, really. At the end of the day, he just deleted all his Facebook because he didn't want to speak to me anymore on there. And it's just disgusting. And then he phoned me twice and he's just denying it. So we were arguing all the time. And he's like, oh, I feel I have to prove anything. I don't know how I can get you to trust me. And I'm thinking, well, you've done the worst thing possible now. You've deleted the whole Facebook, and now you're not even telling me you've done that. You're just lying about it. And I said to him, if you can lie to your best friend, you can lie to me. He's like, yeah. So, you know what I mean? He admitted it. I don't like liars. You can't be with a liar because you don't know what the hell's going on with them. It's a shame, right? But it's what it is. So you have to look at the things that are good about ending, why the relationship ended, but is it a good thing it ended for both of you, And it is good. But it doesn't mean to say it's not hard and difficult. It doesn't mean to say that I can't, I've still got love feelings for a guy who's no longer in my life, and I'm upset about it. I'm upset when I think about the times that we did have what was good. Because if you focus on all the good times in the past, then you're thinking in your head, and you're kind of like not really thinking about the bad times. Then you're thinking, oh wow, well, when he was like this, when he was like that, in the beginning of the relationship mostly, then he's really loving, kind and caring, he's really suitable, the best guy in the world for me. But then when you're taking the reality of the situation at the end, the lies, the fact you're like fighting, the fact, and blah blah blah, and you actually build a pyramid of things that you personally like. It doesn't mean to say someone else doesn't like that, but if you build a pyramid of things that you don't like, then you can see, hang on a minute, there's a huge structured building here of all the things I don't like. This is a reason not to be with the person, because you have to kind of give yourself a logical reason and keep giving yourself practical reasons as to why you shouldn't be with that person anymore. I mean, they're staring at you with face, and you do really know them. You have to bring them conscious thought to tell yourself this. It's really not easy to do. And the problem is he gave me a false sense of security and a false sense of hope before he actually did what he did. And that's one of the worst things you can do to people, because if anyone's got any trust issues in a relationship and you end it like that with them in a really bad way, that is really bad for that person, because it's traumatic. It helps them, well, enables them to have a problems trusting other people in the future. So not only do you do something to them that's not nice to end the relationship without even ending it, you're then breeding distrust in that person by giving them a false sense of security and hope, saying that everything's going to be fine, then doing the opposite and making sure that you're basically being forced to split up with them. It's not good. Doing that to someone's complete betrayal, right? If you're going to split up with someone, at least do it as amicably as possible, as clean as possible. Don't start lying and bullshitting, which is what happens. So it's hard for me, because I've got to deal with the ramifications now. I'm not just the splitting up, but of the fact that my trust was completely betrayed. And the fact he goes, I don't know how I can get you to trust me. The fact is, he's not trustworthy. He's like, I feel I have to prove myself to you all the time. I'm like, well, you know what I mean? I didn't actually say that he needs to prove himself all the time. right? That's his. And at the end of the day, if he's untrustworthy and lies, then you know what I mean? He can't be trusted anyway. So you know what I mean? It's just very, very difficult. And, like, I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm not saying every action I did or everything I did was good. There's, I reflect. It's always good to reflect on your own behavior in that particular connection and see how you can improve going forward. See if there's any way that you can improve. Notice how you feel in the relationship. Notice how things went, and any things you can do for the future is good to improve. And at the moment, it's really difficult because in order to get over heartache and heartbreak, a lot of people go from one relationship to another. And I used to do that in the past. So specifically, this is really hard to do. I am forcing myself not to go back on dating sites, which is really hard for me because I'm a hyper romantic and a hyper kisser. And dating has been like, I've waited to find the right guy. And I thought he was the right guy for 10 years since 2014. I thought my soulmate's Indian. He fitted a lot of the description. And, it's hard because it's a lot of years. And I've been on dating sites predominantly for most of those years. Technically, I'm still on a couple of asexual sites. But, the new Ace site, that Ace Love Space, I deleted myself off there because when I got into a relationship, I wanted to be committed to that person. And then ASAP, I deleted myself off. Badoo, which I had free premium version of, I just delete the whole thing. And the Facebook dating where I met him, I deleted that. But I am forcing myself for at least a period of time not to go on these dating apps because, like I said at the beginning of this video, love is like an addiction and it can be like cocaine or heroin. Apparently, I've never even taken drugs in my life, but it's like that. And so when you are coming out of the relationship, you're still loving them, whatever. It's like withdrawal symptoms. And I think that's the same with dating sites, and dating apps, it can get like that. So I'm specifically forcing myself at the moment not to go back on them. I even got a question on this channel about Facebook dating. And I really would need to be on the app to fully answer the question as it is now because apps change all the time. But I'm not going to go back on there because it's not going to be good for my mind, for my mental health. I still love the guy that I've split up with. And you can't go to a new relationship taking all that baggage and that upset and that pain and that trauma that this situation is currently causing me. So, you have to understand that you can't just get over something unless you suppress and repress something. It's not getting over it then. And if you suppress and repress emotions, you will literally take that to a new relationship and you'll have a lot of problems in it. So you can't do that. And you'll have a lot of trauma stored in the body. So you have to go through the motions, feel it in your heart and feel the pain. And that is framing tough. But you can't stay doing that all the time because if you stay doing that, then it goes in a downward spiral. I mean, I have been feeling down, which is like depression type down, which is bad for me because I'm not usually that type of girl. But I've also been feeling on top of the world and elated because I've had huge success since this guy left my life, since I've split with him. On Monday, I officially ended it, which was the 15th of April, right? So we were together I just want to check my dates on my calendar. So the last time I was actually with him was Sunday, the 14th of April, right? And because he couldn't be asked, excuse my language, to actually end it properly, I ended it this Monday on the 15th, right? On that same day, I literally got my Kindle version out of Diary Confessions of a Hyperromantic Asexual. 78 life lessons to ace your life, right? And then the day after, on the 16th, I got the printed version done. This meant that I had to add the categories, I had to do the descriptions. My Diary Confessions is of an hyperromantic asexual is actually first book in a series of called Diary Confessions. So I created a new series. And it took I had to do some more courses. I had to do part of a course, marketing course. Still, I had to finish, and I had to I didn't really think because of the series. I've never done it before. I didn't really think about you're going to have to create a description for the series, Sandra. So it was a lot of work to do, and especially when I'm grieving and upset and emotional pain, right? But I did that, and the book this week has gone on to be a bestseller, not just locally but internationally on the actual .com website. So this is phenomenal, and it's number 1 in hot new releases both on amazon.co.uk and amazon.com. This is phenomenal, right? So I'm an international best-selling author with that book and got number 1 spot in hot new releases on the amazon.co.uk and .com in certain category, right? This is huge. It's like psychological. I've done a lot of shorts videos. It's like psychology of human sexuality, mostly it's in, but it's in multiple categories of bestseller. for each like .co.uk and .com. You know, this is huge. This is huge success as soon as he's left my life, right? So it proves like, can you be successful without him? Of course I can be frigging successful without him. I'm more successful without him than I was with him. Actually, so that says a lot about the relationship, doesn't it? Right? Because actually I put my work more on a backseat, or I couldn't concentrate on my work as much, especially towards the end of our relationship, because I was anxiety induced all the time and it was making me, I said it's not sustainable. That's why I wanted him to do something about it and fix the issues. And I had issues because he was different to how he was in the beginning. How he was in the beginning, I was fine with it. It was great. He was lovely. And then he's like a different person. But sometimes when people get together in a relationship, the person's not actually being honest. You know, in the end, he's like, "Oh, I don't. You're giving me a headache with all the social media stuff." I'm like, "Well, you knew I was on social media before you even got in a relationship with me." Do you know what I mean? Like, and when I asked him in our first video call, like, "Are you okay about being, like, if you're a couple, you okay about like having your photograph of that person on social media? Do you like that?" And he said yes. But by the end, he didn't really like that. Although he was fine about having his photographs on my channel and being on my channel, which was weird, but not on his social media. It's very like I had to ask him to do that, and you know he clearly didn't really want to do it. So, but then I've already asked him in a video call, so he was lying when he said he was fine with that. If he's not actually fine with that, you know what I mean? But people do lie sometimes initially to get what they want, you know what I mean? So it's not good. But I'm not saying he's all bad. I'm just saying how I feel and some of the events that have gone on, right? So yeah, um, so you have to like, you know, you have to understand the situation for what it is. And I am hugely successful. Like I've had huge this is like my dream to be. I'm a international best-selling publisher as well, because I publish Diary Confessions of a Hyper-Romantic Asexual, 78 Life Lessons to Ace Your Life under my Quirky Books imprint. I'm a registered publisher in the UK. So not only do I become an international best-selling author, I become an international best-selling publisher as well at the same time. But I've done all this by myself. I haven't had a team of people. Like a lot of people to get bestseller status, because I'm in the entrepreneur space, or a lot of people pay thousands of pounds to get bestseller status. I've got it all by myself. Obviously, when I say by myself, I haven't got it by myself in the sense I need people to buy the book. And I'm grateful to you here, my audience, everyone that's grabbed a copy. Don't forget to get a copy if you haven't already got one. It's still a very special offer on Kindle at the moment, you know. There's posts about it. There's you know like videos about it. So please grab a copy. I'd love to know what you think. But you know, that's huge achievement. So I am more successful without him because I've achieved that, you know. And so career wise, it's good for me. So I'm trying to at the moment force myself not to be on dating sites and to concentrate on healing from this situation and focusing on my career and my health. I want to try and focus on my career and my health this year. I've already been focused on my health and improving it. I've improved it a lot actually already, but you know what I mean? I need to do that, but I'm forcing myself not to go on dating sites, but it's really hard for me because I'm naturally a romantic person and I like guys to talk to and dating sites because it keeps like the romance going. I don't know how to describe it, but I'm trying to stop the addiction to dating apps and to like love in general, you know. But it's hard because like I'm very like young. Like I know that people. I don't know if people know my. Some people know my birth certificate age, but I'm not interested in my birth certificate age, and I don't feel I fit in with like what I consider older soul people. I do in terms of relationship. If the guy's got an older soul and I've got a younger soul, but in terms of like people who I consider are older than me, they might not be older than me in birth certificate age, but I consider them older than me. I feel like I don't really fit in. And so this week, you know, in order to get over heartache and heartbreak, some of the things I've been doing is I've purposely gone out to a meetup group, and I've got another meetup group, well, some of the same people tomorrow. So I've got out more. So I've been socializing by myself. So I've been going out to Nando's and I've been going out to Weatherspoon. So I have to get out of my flat sometimes because he's been in my flat. Like it's different for him because I never went where he lived, but because he's been all in my flat with me, it's a lot harder for me to not think about him because like his like the when I think of him, he's like everywhere in my flat because he's been everywhere in my flat with me. And sometimes I see the clothes he wears. So you know, I'm gonna get upset now. Sometimes I see his face. Sometimes I see good stuff like him smiling at me and how much we loved each other. I thought, and so you know, when that happens, it's hard. It's hardcore. It's hardcore breaking away physically, mentally, emotionally, but particularly like mentally, emotionally, spiritually. It's hard. It's hardcore doing what I'm doing. It's hard. It's not easy properly grieving and trying not to get involved with someone else because you don't want to be on the rebound and it's not going to be healthy for you. It's hard. It's hard to sit here and think, oh, I love him still, but he's not with me. He's not coming back. He wasn't the right guy for me. It's hard, especially when I can't help but get upset, especially when in the beginning he was making plans to even live with me. I never even thought I'd want to live with anyone in my life, and I still don't think it's very practical because I can't really sleep. I couldn't really sleep in front of him. Most of the time it was him sleeping next to me in my bed, and I don't get a few hours sleep, and then I would just get up and do something or whatever. But and it's hard. It's really difficult. This what I'm doing at the moment is hard because I've got my sparkle back compared to what I had done. If you look at, I've got a photograph which hasn't been made public at the moment, but I'm actually writing Diary Confessions of a Hyperromantic Asexual, the second book, and I'm putting some of this experience I've had in the book. And one of the things I'm revealing is the actual photograph before I saw him this Saturday of the stress rash I had because I was so anxiety induced in the relationship. And I said, this is unsustainable, right? For me, because there was loads of difficulties I was having. I wasn't feeling good. I wasn't feeling cherished or special or adored or loved anymore. No, please don't cry. I had to get over someone. It's hard. Keep sparking, Sandra. You can do it. Yeah. But, you do need to cry. Actually, it's healthy crying, Crying isn't a weak thing. It's a strong thing. Because if you can cry and you can overcome heartache and heartbreak, but with tears that you've allowed yourself to have, it makes you stronger. Holding emotions in actually makes the body in physical pain and distress and disease later on in life. The more you store emotions up, negative emotion in your body, you don't process them, the worse it gets. So you have to actually release. Crying cleanses the soul. Yeah. But I appreciate you care about me because you don't want me to cry, because you don't like seeing me upset. I really appreciate that, So as I was saying, I've made sure I'm going out socializing. So I'll make sure I went out on my own for food. So sometimes I get claustrophobic in my flat and there's too many memories over here and I get overwhelmed with emotions and upset, and it's just too much. I need to get out because I'm extroverted anyway. And I live on my own. It's quite hard being on your own when you're extroverted. So I've been out to Wetherspoons on my own. I went out to Nando's, but before I went to a meetup group. Now, when I was at the meetup group, it was weird because some of it was really good and the people there were really nice. And in general, I got on well, but I felt I didn't quite fit in some of the time, I usually talk to guys, but I was talking to other people that weren't guys, but they were nice people. One of them was talking about the fact that she's in a relationship with a partner and they're too happy together. And obviously, as someone who's just broken up with what I thought was the love of my life, hearing someone say they're too happy together, I'm like, how can you be too happy together? Surely that's the dream. And they're like, oh, we're too happy together because we just go to the pub, we take our dogs, and we have a cheese board, and then we watch Netflix, and we're so relaxed around each other, and then we do this, that, and the other together, and it's all good. And I'm like, but that's great, isn't it? It's a healthy relationship. But they're like, yes, but it's too comfortable because we end up expanding our waistlines because we eat too much. But I mean, this is coming from a woman that's really thin, actually. So I can't even see what she's talking about. But you know what I mean? So, it's hard. And I did say I'd just broken up with someone. It's hard when you hear that because you then think, oh, this person was telling us as well that the guy she's with, they actually split up for a certain period of time. I think it was 6 months or something. And then they got back together for life. And she was saying stuff like, oh, we decided in the end that we can do all the stuff without each other and we can still have a happy life without each other, in the sense we can do all our activities, we can be really busy, we can enjoy life, but we enjoy it more when we're together, and there's something's missing, and it's that something. So even after they broke up, they again got back together, and they've been together for 2 years and everything's really good between them now. And it's hard hearing that because it makes you think, oh, is the person going to come back and decide that with you? Is it, but the person's completely betrayed my trust. So I would say, no, that's never going to happen because they purposely, I think, betrayed my trust to make sure we never get back together anyway, and so it's just not going to happen. It's weird because she was the one who went after the guy, which usually isn't the case. Right. So it's very bizarre, but hearing that, and there was a guy next to me and he's in a relationship. And so it is hard when you hear other people talk like that. Usually it wouldn't be. I'd be happy for them. I am happy for them. But like I was saying earlier in the video, when I went on the Cathedral Green, I saw a young couple together. They were really great. I loved seeing them in the sense that they looked like he looked like he was really in love with his girl, and it was amazing. But I did feel like it's difficult for me today with couples walking by, even holding hands, because I'm like, where's my other half? I don't have him anymore. He's not my other half. I don't have another half. And I am a whole person in and of myself. And I do love being single. I even told him that I'm actually happy being single. Like, you know what I mean? In the end, which is true. You know, I said to him, I've lost my sparkle being with you. I'm not happy like I used to be anymore. You know, so it's good that he's done me a favor in a way by leaving my life, but it still doesn't mean to say it doesn't hurt, especially when I think the way he was portraying himself at the beginning of the relationship, he like was definitely the right guy for me. I thought we got on so well. I thought we like really just naturally flowed together. But to contrast that with the ending and what actually happened, it's just completely opposite. It's like he's not the right person for me. Like morals, values, beliefs, ethics, character traits is not good. It's not compatible with me. So it's kind of really weird. It's like I experienced two completely different versions of him. One that was like kind of like I felt was made for me. The other one that was the opposite of me. It's very bizarre. It's like they were two different people in the same body or something. It's very weird. And I think that's what's difficult as well. It kind of blurs your reality, like which person is the real person, or are they both the real person? Just it depends on their mood, how they're portraying themselves. Do you know what I mean? So that's kind of really hard to deal with. And at some point, we have to just kind of give up on that thing in It's a Mind, FC UK, and there's nothing we can do about it because otherwise we go around in circles. But getting out socializing, it was hard. And I did tell this person who was talking about their partner being too happy with them, I did say to them that I think, you know, you've got a good relationship and that was a good thing. And I did say to them, you know, I had split up with someone, and they're like, when? I said recently, they're like, when? I said Monday. And this was like Thursday when I was out. Thursday when I was out with them. And this person's like, wow, well, I do applaud you for your courage and being able to come out tonight and do some socializing. It's, you know, because it's not easy doing that. But, you know, there was at one point, there's a guy there that I knew we met through the meetup, and he was sat opposite, and he asked me at one point, are you all right? And I said, no, I'm feeling upset. And that was hard because I thought I was going to burst into tears in front of them all, to be honest, because, you know, like it was just difficult for me. It's difficult emotionally for me. And I felt like I didn't quite fit in this time when I went there, you know, and that and sometimes, not all the time, and it was hard. And it's because I'm really young. Like, I know I'm not interested in my birth certificate age. I don't think like that. I live very like a teenager style student life. My mindset is really young, and I enjoyed being in a relationship with the age group that I like being in a relationship with, like guy in his 20s, for example. But even when I'm out and about, if I see a group of people that are in their 20s, that's who I gravitate towards. That's the energy that I like to be around, because that's my match. That's my vibe. That's who I am. And so at the moment, I'm feeling a little bit disconnected from myself. Like when I was on the Cathedral Green, I'm thinking, this is just too normal and boring for you, Sandra. You need to be around doing high energetic octane things that make you happy and alive. But you know what I mean? So I really probably have to go back at some point clubbing again, because I like clubbing. I'm just being careful not to go back and just jump into that, because obviously, you know, I have to give myself time to grieve, you know. But you should do, when you split with someone, you should do things that make you come alive again, that make you feel good and excited about life and vibrant and energetic, because you want to get back to being in your own life again and driving your own life forward and being happy being single again and realizing all the good stuff that is happening for you. And, you know, everything does happen for a reason. So there's a reason why I'm not meant to be with him anymore. And it wasn't sustainable in the end, you know. One of my Indian actual friends messaged me saying, I'm asexual friends, he is in India. He said, he's online only friend. But he said, you know, like, I'm sorry to hear about your relationship, which I thought was nice that he messaged me. And he said, you know, everything happens for good, though. So, like, remember that, which was nice of him. I do believe everything happens for a reason, you know. And so, you know, I think it's good for me and good for the guy that we're not with each other anymore. But in the logical sense, but in the emotional and the love and the romance sense, it's damn hard. It's like cutting your arm off or something, you know what I mean? It's very, very tough. But I'm doing all the right things, you know, like socializing, if I feel like I need to get out of my flat, I'm going on like self dates, taking myself out for food by myself, getting back into that again. I'm So tomorrow I've got speed friending, which I've never tried before in my life. So I thought it'd be good to try and make some friends in my city, because I don't really have in person. I don't really have that many friends. Like, I have community online, as you know. I love you all here so much. I have a best friend, but he lives like an hour and a half away. He's amazing, but he's got a life of his own. He's got other friends, not just me. And there's a person from my asexual friends group, a woman, and she's really nice. And she talks to me sometimes in message now. She's a really lovely person. I get on well with her. But I haven't. And then there's one person who used to come to my meetups, but she doesn't live in Exeter, but not far from Exeter. But I need some, it'd be good if I could get some good quality friends, a few good quality friends in my city, or at least one. It would be good. So, I'm trying for that. But obviously, if you do get into a relationship, you have to devote quite a lot of time to that person. So I thought it was kind of good that I didn't have a ton of friends, because then I could devote a lot of time to my boyfriend at that time. Because there's only so much of you, and obviously my career is really important. So I don't want to be like, I prefer like having one or two more friends. Probably that's it, because I need to get my work done, and I need to do my own thing. But it creates opportunities. Like, when you're single, you have to think that it creates opportunities again that you wouldn't have had when you're in a relationship. So you have to be thinking of the positive. So get out and socialize. Make sure you take yourself out when you're feeling really down. I know it feels like weird, counterintuitive, but if you can be at home and cry, which is important to get as much cry out as possible. But there has to be a balance between crying and grieving, and actually saying, okay, I need to stop crying now, and I need to go out and like live life in the present, because otherwise I'll be just spiraling backwards all the time. So me focusing on my passion, my biggest passion is my writing. Like, writing books that change lives and pain to gain is my hugest passion, followed very closely by asexuality. So the one thing that's been helping me is actually writing my Diary Confessions book too, and writing some of my stuff, of my emotions, and some of the things I've talked about today, but just some of it in my Diary Confessions book too. And yesterday I spent over 4 hours writing, nearly non-stop, nearly 4.5 it was. And I think it was 34 pages of like writing. It's like, oh my geez, like, in 4 hours? That's usually unheard of. I hear people, like writers, say, oh, I spent 2 hours writing today and I wrote like a couple of pages. I wrote like 34 pages in 4.5 hours. I think I was averaging 7 pages an hour. These are A4 pages. So when you split them up into a book, they're less. So it's like 2/3 or something, or like you're doubling up. So 34 pages is more like 60 pages, you know what I mean, of the book. And I'm like, oh my God, and it's like I was really hungry by the end of it, because I hadn't ate, and I was late to call my best friend. I did tell them I'd probably be late because I had to go to the supermarket. It's barely got any food in. I started at 4:20, I think it was, and finished at 8 something. It was supposed to be video calling, but I had to get it all out because writing's like therapy for me, and therapeutic for me, as well as being my life passion and what I believe I'm meant to do as my main soul purpose. Then I need to do it, because it's the one thing that actually does make me feel calmer, more in control of my life, makes me feel calmed down, makes me feel less upset and pain. But when I'm getting really upset and in pain a lot of the time, then it's hard. It's harder. Another thing I'm doing, which is why I'm feeling a little bit disassociated from myself, to be honest, because I'm really romantic. And I'm purposely not listening to romantic songs or watching romantic movies, because I think that's just going to remind me of them. It's just going to really upset me. But by not doing that, I'm not being completely myself, in the sense that is the essence of who I am. I am romantic. I'm a hyper romantic. So I'm cutting off a part of me in that way. So I don't know if that's good or not. I think it's good in the sense that I don't want to be listening to that stuff, because it's not going to be helpful. I am listening to other music, like Destiny's Child Survivor. Like, that's a really good song. If you've ever split up with someone, that's one of my top recommended songs, is that, because it's all about, like, you thought I'd be weaker without you, but I'm actually stronger, which is actually really logically true with me, because I was having problems working because I was so anxiety induced in the relationship at the end. But this week, as soon as the relationship is over, I'm able to get a new book out to bestseller status and hot new release #1 in UK and USA, Amazon. It's great. You keep writing. It's a good emotional release. Yeah, but yeah, it's good. In my Diary Confessions book, though, I actually write from my heart in there, really raw, real soul emotion. I don't know if you've read the book yet, but Diary Confessions 1. So I'm writing 2, but 1 should just come out. The first book's come out because I'm making it a series. So I'm writing about my real life in real time to help others, because I'll then, like tell people how I'm overcoming this, It's really important. Tomorrow I'm going to be going to Kids Club and watching a movie because I usually used to have Sundays as my self-date days. So I need to get back to doing that again. In the mornings, but I'm doing speed friending in the around lunchtime. So I've got I'm going to go to the cinema in the morning. I might probably have to eat out again tomorrow because I think the movie doesn't finish till 12:30, and then I've got to be speed friending at 1:30. So I've probably got like an hour to eat something. So yeah, it'll be good tomorrow. So I find that with me at the moment, I've got to do a certain amount of work, then I've got to have a certain amount of time out and doing socializing or making myself feel better, because I can't just work all the time because I'm too upset to work sometimes. But then if I give myself some time out of my home to do something and to chill out a bit and to try and and I do some crying as well, I kind of feel it's a good balance, really. So I encourage you that if you're going through heartache and heartbreak and pain, to make sure that you do some socializing, even if you don't feel like it, because it's tough. But you need to get out there again, and you need to get meeting other people to know that there are other people out there to talk to. Because if all you do is think about your ex all the time and like everything you're missing, and the person was there for you to talk to, for example, quite a lot, if you focus on that, then you'll feel lost. But if you focus on other people coming into your life and talking to other people, it'll make you realize that there are other people out there. There's other options. There's loads of people. There is actually a guy at the meetup that we did end up spending like time together, just me and him in the end. Do I get attracted to him? Yes, I have some attraction for him. He has some attraction for me. I know that, but we wouldn't be suitable to be in a relationship together. He's the guy I did salsa dancing with last year, I think it was. I think it was last year. A number of months ago anyway. And that's a very intimate dance. That was at a meetup before I met the guy I've just split with. And so I do have some attraction for him, even though he's British born. I think he has some foreign blood in him, but it's no good because we're not suitable for an actual relationship, because I know he can match my needs. But I had a nice time with him. He bought me a drink. There was candle there. It was really romantic. I did a shorts video showing the candle and stuff. So I had a really nice time. But I just know when he was talking to me about how he is, for example, he was talking to me about kind of some relationship stuff. And he was explaining how he is, but how he is not suitable for me because it wouldn't match my needs. So I don't want to be going there. You know what I mean? I don't want to end up in another relationship where I'm attracted to a guy, but I know that it's no good because he couldn't match my needs. Because I just don't want that again. So I'm being very careful and cautious not to get into another relationship, because since I split up with the guy, I had another Indian guy in my inbox, and then he was on my friends list, and then he video called me. I was talking about relationship, but he was very pushy, trying to force me into a relationship. Like, oh, I'll be your guy. I'm coming to the UK in June. I'm like, you're not going to be suitable for me because you're not staying in the UK. You've got beard, and I don't even know you. You know what I mean? And I don't like the fact he's trying to push me into that. So that was kind of the end of that. And then there's been another guy who's an asexual guy who I've been friends with for quite a bit online. He expressed romantic interest in me. He told me that he wanted to explore if we're suitable romance-wise. And I told him, I can't be doing a relationship with a guy in another country. He's foreign and he's not even in this country, Obviously, I've just split up with someone as well. I'm not just going to go and get into a relationship with someone because it's not what I want to do. I actually want to stay single at the moment. I need to be single, right? And then, there was an actual married Indian guy, which made me really fuming because I get pissed off, excuse my language, with married guys who are coming chatting me up when they've got a wife. And he was pretending he was just friends with his wife, and he was an actual relationship. Until I caught him out, because he eventually started saying, oh, if I meet you, my wife will be coming too, because he's asking to meet me. And I said, I can't get involved with a married man. Oh, we're just friends, nothing more. And as the conversation progressed, I said, you should be loyal to your wife. Instead of looking elsewhere, you should be actually focusing on her. She's beautiful. And he's going, oh no, he said, oh yeah, she's beautiful or something. And I said, yeah, she is. I said, she should be focusing on her instead of looking elsewhere. I said, I can't get involved with Marianne. He goes, oh, she can see everything because my phone's open on her Facebook. But I thought if that's true, then she would absolutely be mad and furious that he said that they're just friends, And he goes, oh, she'd be coming with me. I won't hurt you or hurt my wife. And then I'm like, and when he said she's beautiful, I said, exactly. And I said, so why did you say then that you are just friends with her? And he's like, oh, it's my mistake. Sorry. I said, yeah, it's a big mistake. Luckily, he's blocked me now. But he was in my inbox when I was in a relationship. And I didn't know whether he liked me in a business sense to help him, or if he liked me romantically. But I got a feeling he liked me romantically. But it's disgusting. I can't stand guys who betray their partners, wives. Don't be in a relationship if you want to F around. If you want to meet other women, don't be in a relationship. It makes me sick. I hate guys, and there's a lot of guys who just take their women for granted. Even in the relationship I've just been in, I felt taken for granted in the end. Like, he just like, oh yeah, it's like I'm paying you time, attention because I choose to do that because I love you, because I'm putting you first and prioritizing you. You're just like taking it for granted now. You know what I mean? I hate people who take things for granted. You have to realize when you're in a relationship, at any given point in time, that person could leave and walk out. If you don't make them feel good, special, cherished, and adored, that's what they're going to do, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Or you're going to end up fighting or being miserable together. So, yeah, it really annoys me. So, I've had guys in my inbox and I get other guys going, oh, you're gorgeous, because they see my photographs and stuff like that, right? One guy said I look young in one of the photographs because I dressed up to go out for the meetup group into Nando's to celebrate being an international best-selling author. And I noticed I look younger again, because I noticed when I'm upset and I'm stressed and I'm anxious, like I was in the relationship at the end, I tend to start looking older, in my opinion, older. I'm not saying I'm old, but older. But when I actually am single now, my anxiety levels have shot right down. So I do still have an anxiety condition because I have got generalized anxiety disorder. But my anxiety levels are like nearly non-existent. They're always like there in the pit of my stomach a little bit, if you know what I mean. But rest is just gone. So I don't have that feeling anymore, which is relief, which is great. And then my skin starts glowing again. I start coming back to being the younger version of me that I always believe I am and feel I am, But I know when I start getting stressed and upset and pain, I start looking a little bit older. My skin doesn't look as healthy, and I don't look as I don't think I look as, I don't like to say anything negative about myself with my look. So I look younger, I think, and more myself when I am not anxiety induced, right? So yeah. But I think like the guy didn't really understand my anxiety, he didn't really want to deal with my anxiety in the end, which was bad because in the beginning he was really good about it. And also, it's not my fault I have an anxiety condition, because you know what I mean, I can't help it. But I did think to myself, Sandra, just because you've got anxiety doesn't mean to say that you can't get a nice, kind, caring, loving guy. Because when I was on the Eurostar, and I was going to Disneyland Paris this year, I ended up having this guy sat next to me, and he was talking about his girlfriend. And he said she has huge anxiety, particularly social anxiety. So she barely goes out the home. She's on disability benefits in the UK. She lives in London. And he's just spent like a month with her over Christmas. He doesn't live in the UK. He lives abroad, about 8 hours away on a train. He travels like Eurostar for her. He goes to see her whenever he can. So he spends 8 hours like traveling to see her, 8 hours going back. And he loves her implicitly. And he got all this plan. He said, oh, she can't work. She's really got so bad social anxiety. She's got really bad anxiety and social anxiety. She barely goes out. He goes, but I love her. And he goes, and he was telling me all his plan. He's like, oh, I'm studying. I'm like, at the beginning of my studies, got like 4 years of studying. But the plan is that when I've like finished studying, I'll get a really good job, and then I'll support her, and she's going to come and live with me, and I'll just pay for everything for us, and I'll have her with me. And and he got it all worked out because he loves her so much. And he clearly was talking about his girlfriend loads with me. And I was thinking, well, just because obviously, it makes me feel bad when someone's like not good for my anxiety. And sometimes I felt like he was using my anxiety as a reason for his behavior not being good. Like, oh, it's your fault because you've got anxiety, so that's why you're saying it. I'm like, it's irrelevant where I got anxiety or not, because the thing you're doing is not acceptable whether I would have anxiety or not. Like, it wouldn't be acceptable to someone else. Just because of anxiety doesn't mean to say that that's acceptable. That's a good behavior to have. Regardless of where I've got anxiety or not, it's still not good to be like that, So I kind of felt that it was used against me a bit. Not in the beginning. In the beginning, it was like, you could see that I was anxious. My leg was going. He goes, oh, you'll be fine. He goes, the old scars will heal. Because I told him I'd had some traumatic stuff going. Because he asked me why I don't want to get married or live together. So I told him that. And then he's like, oh, I can see you're anxious. He goes, don't worry, like, you'll be fine with me. The anxiety is going to go over time. The scars will heal and everything's been fine, which is what a good guy would say. Really nice. And then later on, it's kind of like, oh, why have you got all this anxiety? I don't take anxiety. I'm not like this. It's like, but I am like this. It's like, it's in me. I've got an anxiety disorder. He's like, I'll go to a doctor for it, which I thought was quite rude. It's like, I have gone to a doctor. I've got a medical diagnosis. You know what I mean? piece of paper. You know what I mean? It's like, clearly you're not really listening to me. You're not understanding me. But you know what I mean? So some people are like, oh, you can't get into a relationship if you've got anxiety. But at the end of the day, if I was in the right relationship, I think it would be okay. But by the end of it, I was so anxiety induced, it was horrible for me. I couldn't live like that because my whole body shuts down and it's involuntary. So it is a relief. And I have like nearly all the anxiety is gone now. But obviously I've got upset and pain there from the emotional upset that, you know, of the way things ended. And it's difficult for me now. And why is it? It's always the sweet and innocent looking ones that actually end up not being good. Like when you look at him, you're like, oh my God, you wouldn't think that he would be like that. You'd think he'd be the really nice, kind, caring guy that I met in the beginning. So yeah, it's difficult, you know. So you have to like in order to get over heartache and heartbreak, you have to understand that everyone's journey is different and it depends on the depth of feeling you had for that person. Like, even though we weren't together that long, every day we were like in video calls for like 2 or 3 hours or more, usually, a message conversation. So it's very intense and it's like you're with the person a lot of hours. So it feels like I've been with that person a long time. Feels like at least 3 months or more with that person, probably a lot more than that. But you know what I mean? It feels like I've been with the person a long time. And you know what I mean? It's hard when you've gone from the fact that he was talking about building a whole life with you to like the opposite. You know what I mean? Just like, oh, I just delete all community, like to meet our main method of communication. He didn't actually block me on Instagram at that time. But it's weird. But then he knew I had a problem with Instagram anyway, because I can't have problems messaging on there. So it's weird. And he didn't at that time block me on the phone, but he phoned me up and then wasn't interested really anyway and couldn't end it. So I ended it. But you know what I mean? You have to look at like the pros and cons of the relationship, and you have to look at what actually happened, and you have to understand that you've just got to move through it. Whatever happened, whether the good times, the bad times, or whatever, it's over, you know. And it's very difficult sometimes to accept that it's over. Kind of think in your head, is the person going to come back? Are they going to apologize? Are they going to change their behavior? Are they going to like just decide, oh my God, I've made a huge effing mistake. I didn't realize because I was blinded. And, you know, I was so into myself, I just didn't realize. And I've been out there, like some people, guys that, for example, they go out into the world and they're like, oh my God, but I preferred the previous person I had. And I didn't realize how good they were to me because I took them for granted. And now I've ended up with someone who's not good for me, you know, or someone that's not as good, you know. But you have to understand that they've left your life for a reason. If they didn't choose you, they're not your person. If they lied to you, they're not your person. If they deceived you, they're not your person. If they broke your trust, they're not your person. And you have to like move on and know that you do deserve better. You will get better and you will get through this. You have to keep a positive mindset as much as possible, even though it might be really difficult for you. Because, you know, like, what's the alternative? It's not good, is it? So, but try and stay off dating sites. Try and stay single because it's important. You don't go with someone just on the rebound. It's important that you take time to acknowledge where you are, that you are upset and hurt from an ex relationship, and that you need time to process that and to be on your own and to be strong again on your own before even thinking about entering another relationship, if you want to do that. At the moment, I just want to stay single. I don't want to be in a relationship anymore. Yes, I miss the cuddles. I miss the kisses. I particularly miss cuddling. And what's really difficult for me at the moment, because I live on my own, I am upset. I just want someone to be there for me, to hug me and tell me everything's going to be okay. But there's no one here but me. So I have to hug myself and tell myself everything's going to be okay. And I think that's difficult. You know, if you have got friends and family that support you, talk to them during this time. You know, I have got my best friend who I talked to last night on the phone, and initially when it happened, and I have got like a friend in text message, you know, and I have got some people like messaging me as well, and in my community here and on Facebook saying, you know, like nice kind comments, which is really helpful. It does feel supportive, you know. You can support someone through social media. But I wish I had someone actually here in person to give me like a hug or cuddle, just to say everything's gonna be. I usually don't cuddle outside a relationship, but that's why it's hard. But you know, just give me a hug and say like everything's gonna be all right, you know, because I just feel like bursting into tears some of the time. I want a hug, but there's no one here to do it. That's the problem when you are living on your own, especially if you are like don't have many friends in person. You kind of like have to look after yourself and comfort yourself. But just remember that it's better to comfort yourself than be with a person who's no longer comforting to you, or you know what I mean, that's caused you the bother in the first place, you know. So it's really important that you acknowledge that you are grieving, acknowledge your own pain, acknowledge your own difficulties, and try to stay connected to yourself. I'm feeling a little bit, like I said, disconnected to myself at the moment, because when I wasn't with him, before I got into a relationship, I was on the dating scene for years. So I was used to the dating stuff in my life. And he like kind of when I was in a relationship with him, I stopped doing that. So he kind of went in place of all the dating stuff, which was better to have a real relationship rather than mess around with a ton of different guys like who are not really up for a relationship. And so it's better to focus on an actual real relationship than keep going on dating apps. Like when you found a person you think suitable, you have to like try and see if you can make it work, right? And not be messaging other people on dating apps and still dating around. So that's really important. But like because I was dating for years on dating sites, and kind of like when like I was gonna say filled the void, but that sounds really bad. But he kind of replaced the fact that I was messaging different guys on dating sites, because he went into the time that I would have been doing that. But now I'm not with him anymore. I'm not on dating apps anymore. I'm really hyper romantic and I like talking to different guys. It's hard because I feel like my life's a little bit more boring. It isn't boring in my career. It isn't boring when I'm writing, but it's a little bit boring as in normal, as in I'm not actually talking to guys anymore in an inbox. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, I don't know how to describe it, but then you've got to realize that it's an addiction going on dating sites and dating apps all the time. You have to stop the addiction. And so sometimes in life, we have to change what we're doing in order to overcome heartbreak and pain and grief. We have to try something different, because if we keep trying what we did before, we keep getting the same results. So that's why I'm purposely at the moment stopping myself from going back on any dating apps, because I don't actually want a relationship at the moment anyway, and it would be really bad to connect with someone coming from that kind of headspace and attitude and belief. So I mean, from the point of view of, I'll get my validation, if you like, get a fix of like guys talking to me. I don't need that. I have guys in my inbox anyway, just from being on Facebook without the dating app, But you've got to understand that you've got to stop yourself being in a relationship with anyone else, because you need time to heal and be on your own. You need time to get your life back on track without a person in it, because if you become reliant on a person, then you become codependent and your next relationship is not going to be good. So it's better to like take a step back, focus on your own life, your career, your health, all the different other aspects of your life, and relationships like social relationships, friend relationships, other types of relationships, rather than a romantic relationship or queer platonic relationship or that type of thing. If you're talking about relationships, it's better if you've left a relationship, split up from a relationship, it's better to focus on other types of relationships, but also really focus on building your own self-esteem up again, your own self-worth, and focus on what you love to do. Like the writing thing for me, whenever I'm talking about writing my book and I do some writing for it, my whole face lights up and I'm elated and I'm like really high. I'm high off dopamine from talking about that. So that kind of counteracts the difficult time I'm having with my emotions with the grief, right? I want to not love the person anymore. I want to just stop loving them just like that, but I can't turn my emotions off like that. I'm not that type of person. If I love someone, I genuinely love them. I didn't say that to get them in a relationship. I didn't say that to keep them in a relationship, regardless of what that person, why that person said they love me. Regardless, I don't even know if they did or not now, but regardless of why they did or not, one of the shorts videos that they were in, I would say they looked like they did definitely love me. So that confuses me. But besides the point, it doesn't matter what they think and feel. The fact is you have to deal with your reality of your own emotions, not what's gone, right? So if you still love the person, you have to understand that you still love that person. Yes, you're capable of loving someone else in the future. Yes, you're capable of self-love and friendship love. You're capable of many different types of love, right? But you still have to come to a point where you stop loving that person in order to move on to love someone else. Before I met the guy I've split up with, I used to have attractions to multiple guys. But when I ended up being with him, not in the beginning, but as time went on, I ended up just thinking about him and having feelings for him and not really attraction. Not really. I found guys attractive, but I wasn't really being attracted to them, if you know what I mean. So I had my guy at the time. And so, you know what I mean? That's a different mindset shift. So kind of like, since I've been single, I have noticed guys again. Like I was in Nando's and there is a really good looking young guy who looks foreign, short, dark hair, clean shaven. And that did make me feel better, because it made me feel like, there's other guys out there that are my type that might be much better fit for me. I'm not saying this guy Nando's is, right? I don't think I'll probably ever talk to him about anything like that. But I'm just saying it was nice to see a guy they're still my type of guy. So I know it's possible that I can still get for example, the look I want. But it's no good getting a guy who's really good looking if he's got a crap personality and character traits you don't like and you're incompatible with. Right? So you have to like remember all this. You have to be consciously aware of why you're choosing the guy. I have to look very closely next time at characteristic traits, right? Because a lot of the time on dating sites and dating apps, we don't look at characteristic traits. We're so busy like the chemical reaction in terms of aesthetics and what they're saying to us at the time that we kind of end up blinded, or we don't find out enough about them, about the other things, and they can lie anyway, you know? It's not always the truth they're telling you, unfortunately. So just know that you're still a whole person, even if you've lost someone. Like, I don't feel like I'm completely broken too. I feel like my heart is cracked, but it's still got a base to it. So I feel like it's gone like this, but it's still like that. So it's cut down the middle and it's got a massive crack and it's still got a bit of a base there, you know? But it is heart-wrenching, you know, like if you really truly love someone, they're there with you and then they're gone. Like, it's hard, it's hardcore. It's hardcore, it's hard cutting off from dating sites and dating apps because you're like going cold turkey on the love scene, you know what I mean? And at the moment, I don't feel I'm totally being myself because I'm hyper romantic. I like being romantic. I like the love thing. I like the messaging thing. I like the kissing thing. You know what I mean? I'm kind of cutting a part of myself off. I don't know how long I can sustain that actually, because it feels like I'm part of me's gone, which is weird because my identity, is it right for my identity to be tied to those type of things? But I actually are hyper romantic. So innately I am those type of things. So it's hard to know with the dating scene and relationships, how much is like love addiction, chemical addiction, and how much is actually my true identity. You know, it's kind of hard to weigh up the separation of those two things and which is I actually am, or am I a bit of both, you know? And I found like when I was just sat on the cathedral green, it's a bit too normal and boring for me. Like, I like to do high octane energetic things, but something else is really good as well, which can help you with heartache and heartbreak, is to plan to go away on your own, plan a trip, plan to do something that you'll feel energized by. So next week is my birthday, actually. Wednesday is my birthday. Monday, my parents are coming over. That's what I was going to say. Monday, my parents are coming over to give me like a card. I think they're giving me mostly money and a few presents. And then Wednesday, my best friend, which was actually my birthday day, me and my best friend are going to Paint Zoo together. And I'm eating a Chinese meal who doesn't like Chinese, so he wants to go around the seafront and walk while I go in there. And then I've paid for myself to go away for the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday that week. So I have the whole weekend and for my birthday, right? And I'm going to London. But the Wednesday's my actual birthday. The Thursday I'll be packing and sleeping in the day because I've got to about midnight on Thursday. I've got to catch the train on the Friday at 1 something a.m. because I'm going on the sleeper train that gets into London Paddington about 5 something. And I've got to go and drop my luggage off at the hotel in Hammersmith. Then I've got to go to Chessington theme park for the day because I wanted to go to Chessington theme park because I wanted to go on my birthday, but I've already got my friend booked in to see me for my birthday. So, and I want to spend time with my friend above all else. So that's already locked down. But as like an extended birthday, I'm going to London, going to Chessington. And then I've got a business seminar to go to for 2 days. And I thought that'd be really good for me because I haven't been to this type of seminar for years. It's a success resources event. And that's what I started going to, those events in 2012, which was the start of my entrepreneur journey. I'm also known as the Asexual entrepreneur, if you didn't know that. And so, you know, when you go to these events, usually they're very high octane energy. You're around like-minded people who all want to like build their careers online, a lot of them, and they want to like, you know, they're go-getters, action takers. Like the ex I've just split up with, he said he's a thinker rather than a doer, and he needed someone to motivate him to do things. So I thought it would be good for him to have me because I would be motivating him, but don't think it quite worked out like that. I think he'd rather be a bit lazy, to be honest, but there we go. But I'm a doer and action taker. So when I go to the business seminar, it will literally fill me with energy and excitement, which will help my hyper romanticism, hyper natural, hyper nature, you know? So I've got like a innate hyperness about me, which I do love and adore, you know? One of the things when I was in a relationship, he told me to talk more slowly, but yet he speeds film like YouTube YouTube programs up by 1 times 5% because people talk too slowly. So that was a big like kind of mismatched red flag. It's like, hang on a minute, you want me to change my personality to speaking more slowly, which I can speak more slowly, but now it seems like you're getting bored with me because I'm talking slowly, and you're telling me that you speed YouTube videos up because they talk too slowly and get bored. So it just made no sense. It was like he was trying to make me be a person that he actually is not attracted to and that finds boring or something. I don't know what he was doing. It's all bizarre, very bizarre behavior. You know what I mean? It's like I'm loud, bubbly, and talkative. If someone doesn't like that, really, they shouldn't be with me. And he's like, oh, you're a speaker, but you're talking fast. I'm like, well, yeah, I'm talking to you. I'm not on a stage now. Plus, some of the top speakers I like, they actually talk very fast. For example, in the entrepreneur space, Tony Robbins, Gary Vaynerchuk, and Russell Brunson. They're like my 3 top speakers that I like. And that's because I do like my mentor as well, Corey Poirier, but he can talk a lot and he can talk fast sometimes as well. He has to purposely slow himself down a bit for like TEDx talks, So all the speakers that I like, they talk loud and they talk fast. Usually, I don't think Corey talks that loud actually, but the other 3, they talk loud and fast. And that's my personality. So it's kind of really weird. But, when I'm going to be going to London, I love London as a whole. I'm going to really love going to Chessington theme park on my own. So basically, I'm trying to inject like my hyper adrenaline dopamine fixes elsewhere than look to another person in a relationship or dating scenario to get it. So that's what you have to do. If you are kind of having withdrawal symptoms from coming off the dopamine and all the other chemicals of being in a relationship and dating, you need to replace that with something else that gives you those kind of feel good chemicals, so that you're not going back to those situations that are unhealthy for you, potentially getting with the wrong person again. You're actually filling your own cup up, and you're actually going to do things in your life that give you adrenaline and that make you feel good, that are more healthy for you, if you like. But I think I probably will go back clubbing because I love dancing. I really miss doing it, but I've got to be careful of my health because usually every time I go clubbing, I then get a respiratory infection. However, my favourite club in the city on a Tuesday night, I didn't always get poorly going there. So I might go back to there. But at the moment, I'm watching my health as well, because I'm still not 100%, I would say. There's still a few health issues I need to sort out. But I'm working on them, And also, I've got a lot going on with Diary Confessions of a Hyperromantic Asexual book. So that's keeping me really busy because I've got to do some more blog posts about it still, probably do some more newsletters. But once I've got 10 reviews, which if you haven't got a copy of the book yet, please get the book. At the moment, it's on very, very low price, the lowest price I can do for a launch, basically. And just a little tiny bit of money, And if you go and get that and leave a review, that's really good, because once I've got 10 reviews, I decide I'm going to do a YouTube ad for this specific book. I've never done a YouTube ad in my life. I don't know what's going to happen with it, but I need 10 reviews really on that book, written reviews rather than just ratings. At the moment, I've got like a 5-star rating on Amazon.com, 5-star rating on Amazon.co.uk, and even in India, but I haven't actually got any words on there. And I need words on there because I might need to put that in the ad itself. And also it looks better when you have an ad to do that. So please go and get a copy of it. I'm really excited to know what you think. It's the first time I've done like a memoir diary book ever in my life. And it's the first time I put myself on the front cover. So yeah, so I'll get my actual author copy soon so you can see what it looks like in paperback. Yay. So when you're filling your own cup up like that, when I'm doing really good things, my face is elated. So it's hard to be upset and in as much when you're doing things that fill your life up with joy and happiness and make you feel good, and you're giving yourself dopamine. You're in effect counteracting the negative emotions by giving yourself things and creating things and situations in life that are giving you dopamine and positive stuff, if you know what I mean. So the good feel good chemicals are counteracting the negative chemicals, if that makes sense, within you. So the more feel good chemicals you have, the better it is if it's healthy. But if you're just relying on a person, like a rebound person, for example, that's not going to be healthy. So what I want you to do is, please do not go straight back on the dating scene if you have just split up with someone. Give yourself some time to actually breathe and to calm yourself down and your nervous system down, and to get the cry out, and to kind of stop loving the person as much as possible, and try to get over them yourself before you then think about getting into another relationship. At the moment, I don't actually want a relationship. Some people take it a whole year out. They decide to focus on their health and career for a whole year and not much else. I mean, for me, I am a hyper romantic. If I go clubbing and there is a young foreign guy there that I want to kiss and he wants to kiss me, I'm single now, so I would probably do that, because I usually quite detached from guys in clubs these days because I know how to stay detached most of the time. But I'm not going to be having a relationship with that person. I don't want a relationship. And I like dancing and kissing basically, but dancing first, which is weird because I'm hyper romantic and a hyper kisser, but I go to dance on my own, and then if that happens, sometimes it's okay. But I would, if I'm in a relationship, I can't do that. I really want to go to Bollywood events again, but there hasn't been any in my city. But again, I've got to be careful with what I play. Make sure when you're playing music, you're playing like motivational stuff, or you're playing stuff that isn't to do with your ex, that wouldn't remind you of your ex. So or ideally he's not going to remind you of him. So with my ex, he created a love playlist for us. A lot of them were the songs that I liked, and I told him what I liked at the beginning of our relationship. And so that's quite difficult because if I hear those songs, they'll remind me of him. Also, I've been washing a lot of the stuff, like all my bedding I washed as soon as he split up with me, because he's been in my bed, he's been in my flat. So the clothes I wore when I was with him, I've gone in the washing machine. I think I've still got like a couple of items left to wash, a few in the wash still, so I'm washing through it. So kind of washing the guy right out of my system, if you know what I mean. It's hard because even before we split up, he was like, even in the toilet with me, like he was cuddling me while I was cleaning my teeth, which is why it's so weird. His behavior is then like, I don't care about you anymore. I'm just gonna go. It's like just delete my Facebook. Like I don't give a shit about you. But you know what I mean? The behavior and the actions and the words, they just all don't really match up. Do you know what I mean? It's like, how can you be this loving, kind, caring, cuddly, I really want to be with you type of person, and then the opposite? Even when we're asleep in the same bed, which I do, I usually don't sleep in the same bed as a guy. I usually refuse to ever do that. But with him, because I loved him so much and felt really comfortable, I couldn't really sleep though very much. And he liked like my arm around him, and he liked our legs intertwined with sleeping, but I couldn't sleep like that. But that's usually a guy that really cares about you more than obviously your body, and more than loves you because they want to be close to you. It's kind of weird. And then to have the opposite, and the person just like basically lie and then just go off from your life, is just kind of really weird, strange behavior. It's like so contradictory and so opposite. But then that's hard for you as a person when you're grieving, because you get confused. You're like, which is the right version of them? Which person were they really? But they told me like, don't run for the bus and wave me goodbye. So they already knew they were gonna like potentially kind of like break up with me, but not break up with me, make me force me to break up with them or something. I don't know. But it's really weird behavior. So I think we have to like, we'll do a bit of deciphering, but you have to just decide, okay, you're not going to know the truth about this person. You're not going to know what they were whether what truths they were speaking. You're not actually going to know what fully went on because you're not them. And if they have lied and deceived you, that makes it harder. And you have to come to the terms of the fact that, okay, you'll never really fully know. You have like, probably in the beginning of our relationship, probably it was really, really good. And probably he was more on the genuine loving, caring side of things. But even in the beginning, there was some lies. Like he said, for example, on the first time he came down to see me and he booked transport, he lied because he said he booked it and he hadn't actually booked it when he said he had. He didn't book it till the next day, and he did lie about that. So that lying's not good. He lied to his best friend that he was coming to see me by saying he wasn't coming to see me, and his best friend saw the evidence on his email. So lies are really bad. And usually, if I knew a guy lied before I got into a relationship or before I got attached to him, I wouldn't even entertain the idea of being with a liar. Because if a guy can lie once to his friend or anyone, he can lie to you in a relationship with him. If he can just tell any lie, then I've always said this on this channel, if you can tell any lie, then he'll lie to you, and you don't want to lie because you can't trust him. So it's a huge red flag really that I kind of like put to one side and kind of ignored or just accepted. All right, he's done this. Yeah, I forgive him. But it's not good. Do you know what I mean? So there was problems like in that scenario. And so you have to like understand like what were the red flags and kind of like make a note of them, either mentally or written down, so that in the future, if you come across someone for a potential relationship, you're actually checking all these potential red flags before you get into a relationship with them. I did get into a relationship with this guy quickly. I went for it. I trusted him, and yeah, you could say let me down, the trust issues. But it's my choice, and you have to take responsibility for your own life and your own actions, right? So I take full accountability and responsibility that I got into a relationship with this guy quickly. I trusted what he said was true. I based the relationship on the fact that he would always stay as he was in the beginning, which didn't happen. So, hi, nice to see you. Lots of love. And so, you have to take responsibility for that. You can't go blaming the other person. You can't go blaming anyone else, because you're responsible for your own behavior and you're responsible for what you did, right? But someone in a relationship can affect you. There's a lot of things like that are stereotypical and where I say, oh, if you are affected by someone else, it's your problem, your fault, because you're allowing them to affect you. But the fact is, environments always affect people, like a work environment, a home environment. It does have an impact on you, whether you like it or not. You're not in control of the way other people behave to you. You can say you're in control of the way you react to it, but at the end of the day, if you're an empathetic person, you're caring, sensitive person, and you've got, you're going to feel and be affected by the things around you, about your environment. So just like if you've got a work colleague and the work colleague's belittling you and putting you down, that's going to affect you. You could say, all right, well, I'll just sit there and just feel absolutely nothing. But you're not a goldfish. You're not a robot. You're a human being with emotions. And if you don't feel anything, it's going to be weird, because the good people do feel things. They empathize, they sympathize, they have emotions, they feel sensitive towards situations. If you make yourself completely devoid of all emotions, that's not good, because it's like you're shutting yourself down as a person, right? We're not AI. There is AI, but we're not AI. The beauty of ourselves is we do have emotions as human beings. We do really feel. And our environments do affect us. If you're in a repressive, suppressive environment, you're going to be a lot more feeling down, and it's going to be harder for you to function than if you're in a loving, caring, happy environment. Environments matter. And if you're in a relationship, they are like your environment, because they're the person you're spending the most amount of time with usually in your life. And so you're bound to affect each other, because that person's part of your environment. You know what I mean? So it's not completely true when they say, oh, you just, you're choosing to be affected by them. You're going to be affected by them, because, like, people grow up in traumatic, abusive, for example, home environments. Now, you can't just turn around and say, oh, well, that shouldn't have affected you. Of course it does. And they would argue, well, a child's affected because they've got no mind of their own. And, they're kind of like learning at that point in time. But even as an adult, if you are at home and say you're 21 and you're living at home, and your caregivers are rude to you, disrespectful of you, they're putting you down, they're making you live in fear, of course that's going to affect you. You can go around saying, oh, well, I'm not going to let it affect me, but of course most people are going to be affected by that. To say to someone, oh, like, you're the one who's making yourself be affected, because it's you who's doing that to yourself. You're not doing that to yourself. There's another person involved. So it's kind of a toxic thinking to think that no other person affects you in the world and you're bringing it all on yourself. It's kind of like not a very good, healthy thing. Like, people do affect you. Relationships affect you. Interactions with people do affect you, because you are interacting. You're a living, breathing human being that is reactive to the world around you. It's better if you can try to respond rather than react, and learn how to do that as much as possible. But the people do have an impact on you. And if you are an empathetic person who feels things, who's sensitive, you're going to pick up vibrations. People that feel energy from others, you're going to feel it. I mean, even if you're not so much of an empath, you can pick up on different people's energy. You can pick up on someone's like having a down, miserable day and not feeling good, because you can sense the energy is low and down. Whereas someone who's living their passions and dreams will have a high octane energy. I've been told that I have an energy about me that's kind of contagious and enthusiastic, right? Even the guy, when I was in a relationship with him at the beginning of our relationship, he was saying, oh, you got so much energy, like, it's rubbing off on me, like, I don't want to go to sleep because you're so energizing, and so that's good. But also, if I'm really upset, then the other person feels it, but you can't be happy in a relationship all the time. You can't be happy in life all the time. It doesn't work like that, people. You know what I mean? So you have to honor the difficult times as well as trying to get through them. But if you're going through a relationship breakup, it is a difficult time. You have been affected by that person. You can't deny it to yourself, because otherwise you gaslight yourself, basically saying, oh, it didn't happen, I'm not affected. That's like gaslighting yourself. It's blurring your own reality, right? So, and it's denying your ability to be able to move through the emotions healthily. You have to be able to move through the emotion yourself, give yourself time and space to say, okay, I'm grieving. Relationship loss is a huge loss. It's one of the most traumatic things actually that can happen in your life. Moving is, losing an actual person to death, and, grieving a person, a lost relationship. And, some people can be in a relationship for just a few months and they could feel like the whole world is ending. Some people can be in a relationship for a couple of years, but maybe the person that's been in a relationship for a couple of years, they've nearly finished their relationship because they've discovered that they're not really compatible anymore. They're just going through the motions. And so maybe that's not actually as painful breaking up after 2 years because they've already kind of both come to the conclusion they're not really suitable, but they're not really saying it, but eventually they do, more than the person that's been in a relationship for a few months thinking that that's that person is their world and the love of their life, and it's very intense and emotional, and it's very like feeling, and there's a lot of emotions and feelings involved. So just because someone's been in a relationship less time doesn't mean to say it's not as dramatic a situation when you're grieving. It can be, because it's the feelings you feel, the intensity you feel, the amount of time you spent with that person, the intensity of the relationship, the energy of the relationship. It's if you felt like you've been with them for absolutely months or years, even if you've only just got with them, then you can feel that in your body and your soul, and it can feel like you've been with them years and you're giving up someone who you've been with for years, even if you've only been with them a short time. Just kind of what it feels like in my situation. I was with them a short time, but I can't even believe the short time I was with them when it feels like I've been with them months at least, So it's really difficult. And you have to understand that it is going to be upsetting for you. It is hard to deal with upset and pain. It's hard, especially because you think, oh, well, that person doesn't really care about me anymore. So why am I caring about them? Why do I give a shit about them? Why am I upset about them? Why am I still loving them? Why am I still thinking about them? Why am I still thinking, are they going to pop in my inbox and say, I'm really, really sorry, I was an asshole. I'll never do that again to you, and I love you and I want to be with you. Like, even if they're not a good person for you and they're not right for you and they've lied to you and deceived you, you kind of like your romantic brain kind of thinks, oh, that person, if only they did that. But do you really want that? Because if that really happened, you're still not going to be compatible, because unless they've changed their behavior or something's changed between you, it's still going to be the same problems over and over again. That's what happens usually if an ex ever gets back in touch, like years later or whatever. If they haven't changed, you haven't changed, and they haven't changed, nothing changes. It's the same problems as you had before. You get together, you bond again, and you have to split up because it doesn't work. So at least one person, at least one, if not both, at least one person has to change in order to get back with someone. Because there's a lot of videos on the internet going how to get your ex back. One is usually you shouldn't want to get your ex back because you split up for a reason. That reason's usually still valid in the future. And two is, if they broke your trust, it's going to be hard to ever trust them in a new relationship again anyway. And three is, if they haven't even been changed, then nothing's going to change. You can't change a situation unless something changes. Like, the situation has to change or you have to change. You know what I mean? So some people split up because it's just like a case of distance and they're in the wrong place at the wrong time. But if someone's completely betrayed your trust, how the earth are you ever going to trust them again? They could come back into life and they could just be telling you a load of lies again. Right? So really, it's not a good idea to get back with an ex. It's actually better to cut off from them, thinking that person was not the right person for you. Even if you thought they were at the time, they did not choose to be with you. They need not choose in the end to do good by you and be the right person for you. They chose to walk away, so they didn't choose you. They're not the love of your life because they did not choose you to be the love of the life and maintain and sustain that in a healthy way. So, we can't grieve over a love of our life that's not a love of our life because they're not with us for life. We can only grieve over the person they were at the time with us and the loss of the things that you did like about them and the presence of the life and the fact that you were close to them physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. Can only grieve for what was, not actually what wasn't. And I did learn the fact that, if they didn't choose you, they're not actually your person. And that was very helpful. I think I learned that last year before I got into a relationship, And also, a really good thing to note in a relationship is it's not about how you feel about the person you're with, but how they make you feel. So if, for example, you totally love the person, which I did totally love this guy, but then in the relationship, I'm feeling anxiety induced all the time, upset and pain in the end, that's no good for me, because as much as I love him, it's not sustainable for me to continue a relationship with him with the way I'm feeling, which is not good. In the relationship, I'm feeling disconnected from him. I'm feeling like he's disinterested. Or, well, sometimes he's like really into me, sometimes not. It's like hot and cold. It's not good. It's like a seesaw effect. You know what I'm saying? So you can't have a healthy relationship when you're seesawing all the time. There's no stability there, no security, no sensibility, right? So you have to basically think about the fact that, you don't want to be having drama all the time and rocky up and down moments, right? You want to both be good for each other, and you both want to be happy. If you're not making each other happy anymore, it's good to leave the relationship, not good to stay in it. But I still wish him well in his life, because I genuinely love him and I want him to be happy in his life, and I hope he take some lessons like I will from this, and I hope he gets his dream job and gets the woman, whatever other woman he wants of his dreams. I think he's got some work to do on himself as well, not just me got work to do on myself. You know what I mean? But whether he'll work on himself or not, I don't know, to be better in a relationship in the future. I don't know. It's really weird. On Instagram, I blocked him, but before I blocked him, I posted a video in there saying, "Oh, for the woman you love in the future, this channel's really good, specifically in how to like have healthy relationships and stop fighting," basically. So maybe he'll heed that, maybe he won't. But it's weird, isn't it? The supposed love of his life that's just exiting his life is telling him how to be better for another woman. But you know what I mean? So I think it's difficult, because he's in a stage where his visa runs out in September, and he's got a visa for Canada, but he didn't actually go there last year. He's already got it since last year. So he was deciding whether to come and whether to stay in this country and be with me in a relationship, and either stay living in London or come to Exeter to live near me. Or he said that's what he wanted to do, but then he's still got this thing in the back of his mind about going abroad to Canada. So he'll probably go abroad to Canada now and then get married to some woman over there. I think that's what he wants to do. But just because he does get married and goes to Canada doesn't mean to say he's going to be happy. It's weird though, because I think if he really wanted to go to Canada, he would have left by now, the UK, but he keeps coming back to the UK. So it's kind of weird. But like, I thought he was my soulmate, so you could say, okay, he wasn't your soulmate. But one of the dating coaches I watched, they say, you can have a range of soulmates, and a soulmate could just have a spiritual contract with you for a short period of time. It doesn't mean to say they weren't your soulmate. They could just have a short contract with you, and then that's it. But I just think that he wasn't the right guy for me after all. That's better, I think, that, and he wasn't the soulmate or the final one that I hopefully will still end up with eventually. I like the fact he was, the look I like. I like the fact he was Indian in his 20s. I like, things about him, his intelligent stuff. But there was other things, like I've told you, I don't like lies and fights and all that type. The fact he likes fighting and all that type of stuff. You know what I mean? So I think you just have to like reflect on what you like and don't like in that scenario, so that if you get into a relationship, or before you get into a relationship with someone else, if you do, because I just want to be by myself at the moment, then you can kind of like look for these things in the other person, like to assess what they're like, to see if they're suitable for you before you get into a relationship with them. I don't like I said, I don't regret being with him in the relationship, because I personally think it's better to love and live than just stay behind a keyboard all the time, not going out there and doing anything and experiencing anything. So although I'm in pain now and I'm upset, I am happy that I had the experience I had, even though it wasn't good experience in the end. But I'm happy that I lived, I loved, I tried something that for me was a very brave, courageous thing to do. And I'm glad I had that opportunity and experience to experience some good stuff with him. And like I do still think I'm suited to a younger guy. I do still think he should be in his 20s. I do still think he should be Indian, because I just felt right from those points of view. I can't be with an older guy. I was sat on the Cathedral Green today saying there's no way I can force myself to be with a guy I don't want to be with, because I'm not interested in guys anywhere near my birth certificate age, or or older than me. I'm just not attracted to those type of guys. I'm just not. I am an asexual cougar. I am attracted to younger guys. I can't help that. And I can't force myself to be attracted to someone I'm not, that I don't feel comfortable around, that I don't feel physically comfortable around. I was really physically comfortable around this guy, more physically comfortable than I am, or that I have ever been with any guy, I think, I would say. So that was quite, well, since 2014, since I found out I'm asexual, put it that way. Obviously, I was in long-term committed relationships years ago. So physically, I was an asexual that has had sex in the past. So physically, I was comfortable around the last long-term serious relationship I had, which ended in 2011, physically, because, I was in a sexual relationship with that guy, but we didn't have sex that often. But he wasn't a good guy for me in other ways, but sexually he was good. So yeah, you have to like reflect on all this stuff, and So to summarize how to get over heartbreak and heartache and pain, like some of the techniques, for example, to summarize, is make sure, like, one, you do actually realize that you're grieving. You actually go through the upset, the pain, you process those emotions, you allow yourself to feel them some of the time. But you also balance that out with doing other things to distract your mind and not putting you into a downward spiral. But you still have to, so you have to, like, take some of the feelings, cry it out, and then do something else, right? So, join social meetup groups, get out and see people again. If you've got supportive friends and family, talk to them, work through some like notes about what happened. So you can get some more clarity. Obviously, you can't get total clarity because you're not the other person. You don't know the situation really, not in their head. Do what lights you up, what you're passionate about. Make sure you do that the most and do it regularly all the time. As soon as you feel upset, going to your favorite hobby and passion. Make sure that you are filling your own cup up in life. So self-date, go out when you need to. If you can't stay indoors, if it's too painful for you, just crying all the time, get out, even if you don't feel like it. Make sure that you're not listening and watching things that's just going to make you more sad. Like, it's really weird because I saw someone on YouTube saying about how to get over heartache and heartbreak, and they said to listen to love songs because that will help you cry a lot and grieve. But actually, for me, I don't think it's a good idea. I would rather personally, and I think it's important to listen to songs that make you feel good about being on your own and surviving on your own and being powerful and strong on your own. Like I said, I listened to Destiny's Child Survivor, and that is one of my top go-to tracks for a breakup or any heartache and pain like this, because it's all about the fact you thought I'd be weaker without you, but I'm actually stronger. You thought that basically I'd be lost without you, but I found myself. It's all about the fact that people assume when you break up that, oh, I'll be unsuccessful, I'll be lost, I'll be lonely without you, I'll be weak without you. And Beyonce says that she's the opposite. She's actually stronger, she's actually more powerful. I am a survivor and a thriver. Like, people mistake tears for weakness. Tears are not weak, they make you stronger. The more tears you have, the more heartache and pain you have, the more you actually exercise that muscle for being more resilient and breaking through your fears and your emotional barriers. The more you actually come into your own, the stronger you become through the heartache and pain. People don't have heartache and pain in their life. They're at a certain level of resilience in their body and mind because they've reached that resilience. But if you have a really emotionally difficult time and you come through it, you're actually stronger because of it. And you're actually a strong person if you can cry and feel your emotions, feel the pain. It effing hurts, I can tell you that. It absolutely kills sometimes. Like, you're feeling raw, real emotions. It hurts because most of the time people on social media scrolling and they're trying to cover up their emotions. Most of the time you're distracting yourself. You're trying to just cover it up. To actually feel raw emotions, think, God, I still love this person, even though they've just left my life and really probably don't give a shit about me. It's hard to do that, right? But your emotions are your emotions. They're not theirs. So, do you know what I mean? Like, they might be really missing you. They might actually be looking photographs of you, thinking, oh God, what the hell have I actually done? Right? They might actually be thinking, like, I do love that person. I do miss that person. I'm used to being a couple with them. I thought, like, it got a bit overwhelming for me, the relationship. But now I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm lonely. I'm missing them for hours. I'm not being with them. I'm not holding their hand. I'm not kissing them. I'm not seeing them. I miss their personality. I actually miss them smiling. I actually miss the fact that I felt that, I felt they were a bit like, oh my God, I'm here for you. And I took that for granted. And now I'm missing it because there's no one really interested in me anymore. You know what I mean? And everyone's pairing off. Everyone's getting married around me. Everyone's got their own friends and their own whatever. As I'm feeling lonely now. So just because I'm saying that, oh, don't give a shit about me, he might be actually feeling the opposite. Because I know when I was with him in the relationship at the beginning, he was like, oh, I see couples and I feel really sad that I'm not with you at the moment. So he might be going, I guess he's a person that probably blocks a lot of his emotions off. But he might be still feeling that. It's really weird because before we split up, he took loads of photographs and put them on his phone of me and him. And he asked to see my wardrobe full of clothes. It was really weird. It's like, so his behavior doesn't really, his actions don't really match. It's like, I really care about you. I'm into you. I want to know about stuff in your life. Yeah, I'm just going to leave your life. So it's very bizarre behavior. Only he knows why he's behaving like that, really. But you know what I mean? Sometimes people get overwhelmed in a relationship, and instead of actually sorting the issues out and stuff, and like talking to the person about needs, they just like kind of bolt or whatever. But you know what I mean? It's just like weird. So you can't make sense of some of it. And it's a mind FC UK, you know, so you kind of have to just think, okay, they've got to deal with their own grief or whatever, or no grief or whatever they're doing, and you've got to deal with yours because you're on your own now. They're not in your life anymore. And you know, you should block them. You know, like if you've given them, you know, if you really want to get them back or want them to be back, obviously, like you can give them a little amount of time to come back to you if you want, but why do you want to have someone back in your life that doesn't value your worth, that just gave you up just like that lied to you, deceived you, whatever? Excuse me, it's not good for your own self-worth, is it? There's no point in getting back with someone like that when you deserve better. There are better guys out there, a better people out there. I'm honest. I was never, ever not honest in a relationship. I'm completely 100% honest. Doesn't mean to say I'm going to say everything the person likes, but I'm completely honest. I didn't lie. I didn't deceive. I was really totally into the person, really loved the person, you know. So from my point of view, because I'm like this, I'm a kind, caring, honest person with a heart full of love for the right person. Yes, I do like spending a lot of time with the person and stuff like that. Then there's bound to be like guys that are like me out there, you know. I've seen evidence of it. Like I said, there was a guy on the Eurostar that had a girlfriend that was totally really anxiety. She had an anxiety condition, really anxiety induced, yet he loves her so much that he was like travel 8 hours just one way to see her, you know. And he would, like, you know, on Eurostar, and he's gonna, you know, like he's building the whole future for them for the next few years, and so she can go live with him and, you know, live off his money, and they live happily ever after him because he's truly into her. He loves her, you know. So there are guys that are kind, caring, that are empathetic towards people with disabilities and things like that. So we have to remember there is someone for everyone out there if we want it, but it's better to stay single for the time being. It's better to love your single life and be happy being single, you know, and really truly feel that single vibe as a solo artist of life. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an episode. Go get Asexual Perspectives book, which is out on Amazon. This is a bestseller. And Diary Confessions of a Hyper-Romantic Asexual 78 Life Lessons to Ace Your Life is also a bestseller, which is my new book, which is go to the community tab and go and grab a copy of that, or just type in Diary Confessions of a Hyper-Romantic Asexual and it'll come up. Thanks for being in chat tonight, everyone in chat. Lots of love to you. And I'll see you soon on the next video live stream. Lots of love. Take care and see you soon. Bye.